I just want to tell you a few things about the Science Gateways Community Institute if you're new to our organization. We exist to share experiences, technologies, and practices as well as expertise among the community at little or no cost to the community members. We're funded by the NSF in order to provide those resources and services, and that brings you this webinar as part of it. We have 5 service areas that provide a mix of consulting and resources. And our first service area is the incubator. It offers both consulting for very specific topics related to gateways that you might not be able to find locally or you might not know how to find, as well as a training program called the Boot Camp, which is a 1-week intensive program that introduces gateway projects to all of the things that they might need to know about promoting and sustaining their gateway as well as building it. The Extended Developer Support service area is where you can come to get direct custom development help. It essentially, through an application process, you can just let us know that you have a project where you need some specific help, and we have people who are very experienced with building science gateways who can help you with either your components or even just getting your gateway started. The Scientific Software Collaborative has produced a gateway catalog, which already has 401 entries as of today. It is there for you to both promote your gateway, and you can list your gateway there, or you can list a software platform or component for others to discover and use in service of building their gateway. Community Engagement Exchange is us. The small number of us who bring to you this webinar series, as well as our annual conference and resources on our website. And finally, Workforce Development is there to provide learning experiences and also internship and mentoring opportunities for students and educators to build the next generation of professionals who are working in the gateway field. A brief plea to ask you to give us your feedback about this webinar. It takes actually about 5 seconds to answer the 2 main questions, which have to do with what you thought of the webinar and whether you'd recommend it. And then if you have topic ideas that you'd like to suggest, this form also lets you do that. So at the end of the webinar, we hope you will give us your feedback. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Shari Thurow join us with her screen sharing. She's loading it right now. So I'm very pleased to introduce Shari Thurow, who I've known for a number of years and is a very generous and expert source of information about making your information on your gateway or anywhere easy to find. So with that, I will let you take it away.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
We can, yay!
Yeah.
So if anybody's tweeting, Science Gateways, of course, and my Twitter handle is my name, Shari Thurow, and I'm very, very unusual person with an unusual set of skills. I'm one of the founders of search engine optimization, and there are times I've been very proud of my industry, and there are times I've been very embarrassed about my industry. I have technical skills, I have usability and UX skills, but I've been a librarian and an information architect for longer than any other time, and I love doing what I do because people are funny, and I bridge the gap between academic websites as well as commercial websites. I do work as a contributing editor for the ASLib Journal of Information Management, and it's what my doctoral work is in. I focus on usability, user experience, particularly in search interfaces, and I have served on the boards of both of those associations. So the agenda I have might be surprising to a lot of people because I see a lot of myths and misconceptions about SEO. And, you know, people always think, somebody at an organization usually thinks, oh, a search engine algorithm changed, it changes 600 times a year. That way that means we have to change our site 600 times a year. And that's not true. There are overriding SEO principles. And if your site follows these 7 overriding principles, you will have a scalable, extensible website, and you'll have a fortress for a science gateway as opposed to a sandcastle that has to get rebuilt over and over again. So I start with the 3 key principles that I think all SEO should know, give you a definition of SEO and some resources, and go through the 4 building blocks. I have a lot of tools and a lot of checklists that I'm going to provide for you after the webinar, and we should have time for questions and answers. And a generous thank you to the volunteers. And I have given them a free link development analysis, and in your link development analysis, I have also showed if there were any issues, I have shown you how to fix them. So thank you very much for volunteering your site. Couple of things, if you check out some of the sample mobile pages and the apps and the other types of digital documents on the site, you might not see them because they might not exist anymore. But if I choose a screenshot, whether it's mobile or desktop, it's because it illustrates a principle really well. And I think these icons are self-explanatory, and I will re-emphasize if I think a guideline is critical to whether people can find content. So the 3 principles that I think everybody should know about web search is something called Aboutness, and it's Aboutness in context. So what is the topic of this digital document, and in what context is it used? Information sent is hugely important for findability, and something you might not have heard of called SEO Pyramid. And before I go into the 4 building blocks, I usually ask people to explain these to me so I understand their level of SEO expertise. So here are the citations for Aboutness. And basically what I do for Aboutness is I do something called the 5-second usability test. And I love this usability test because basically anybody can do it. What you do is you show a digital document on a screen. If you're targeting mobile, you show a mobile screen. You also show horizontal and vertical. And then you show it to people for 5, I sometimes do 8 seconds. And then you ask these people who are in your target audience to write down everything that they remember. You don't show them the answers. And if they do not write your most important keywords, then your target audience doesn't think that your content is about that topic. And the search engines, the web search engines, and even site search engines tend to see the same thing. So we really have to establish aboutness. Now, the more difficult it is for a search engine to access content, text content is easy to access. Videos and other items are more difficult to access, so then metadata becomes more and more important. Alternative text, which is text inside of a graphic image that we use for accessibility, does not count for the ranking of a text-based document, but it does count for the ranking of a graphic image. So I love this site because I did the 5-second usability test on a number of pages. And just so you all know, I have worked in medical genetics and biotechnology labs for over 10 years. I think math is cool, and I definitely think biology is cool. So kudos to this site. This is the home page, and what we do is we do the 5-second usability test for each user group, including the website owners, because we want to see what the mental models of the website owner is, and we ask them, what do you remember about this site? And what was done really well is that they said what type of gateway this is. Brilliant. Love it. Let's go to a category page. They got it. Browse our many open education resources by the CUBES community. Great. People understood it. Then we came to what we would call a content or a destination page. And people understood what the content was about. So it was great that the human users understood what the content was about. But when we looked for this in Google for a very specific listing, look at what the description says. cubes hug the power of math, biology, and community. That was not what the website owners intended. So there is something in there that needs to change in your content template so that you would have a better description that would encourage users to engage with your website. Because that we would probably say you need at least 150, 155 characters to help. So information sent is the second thing. Information sent consists of cues that answer the questions. Where can I go? How can I get there? Am I in the right place? And if I'm not in the right place, because search engines aren't very good at getting people to the right place all the time, should I click on this link? And information sent is hugely, hugely important for SEO, because the more people click and the more people stay on your site, the better your site and all your documents tend to perform in the search engine. So let's say a searcher is looking for an illustration of a stem cell, and I do this all the time with my clients as well as my colleagues as well, is I get a list of what they want to show up for. And so somebody wanted to show up for stem cell illustrations, stem cell photos, all that kind of stuff. And so what I do is I present this interface. I'm using Google as the example, but I also do the same thing in other search engines, and say, what do you expect to see after hitting enter or tapping the magnifying glass? And then we don't show users the result, because the idea, because they'll always say the same thing. Oh, I knew it. I just didn't forget. I forgot to say that. If they wanted to say it, they would have said it. So that's why we don't show them the answer. So did Google validate the mental model? They did. They have photos, illustrations. They have actual illustrations. And it's pretty good. So I would say Google did an okay job validating users' information sent. Well, the thing is, people will click up to 25 times, and I've done this test year after year after year. And as information sent gets stronger, people click. As information sent is at least maintained, they'll stay on your site. But if information sent diminishes or disappears, that's when people tend to abandon your site. And it's very unlikely that they'll come back. They also remember your site in the search results. So establishing Aboutness, establishing and maintaining information sent. The last thing I want to make sure people understand is Inceptor's Pyramid. Inceptor is a SEO long time ago, and this is their concept, is that when people come from a search engine such as Google or Bing, they tend not to land on the home page. They tend to land on the page in the middle of your site. So you have to treat most of your web documents, particularly the text-based ones, as a point of entry. That means if you use an abbreviation, you spell out the abbreviation on or near the top of the screen. It means you try not to use jargon. It means you try to use the user's language. You can use the more technical language or more jargon language further down the page, but you really want to validate the user's mental model no matter what page they land on in the middle of the site. And those three things are what I wish people would understand before they start actually optimizing a website. And search engine optimization is not optimizing for search engines. I know it seems obvious to some and not so obvious to others. Search engine optimization is about human and computer interfaces. And it's about optimizing a website for people who use search engines, because Google's not going to join your webinar. Google's not going to add a resource. A human being's going to add a resource, or a human being's going to contact you. So you always optimize for people search, technology second. And if you do this, you have a balance between user-centered design and technology-centered design, and you make it part of your process, then you have a site that's a fortress. I've seen, there's a site I did back in 1998, it's been 20 years, and the site still performs extremely well. And all they did was just update the style sheets. So people can really build these wonderful fortresses. So here's a definition of SEO. It's designing and writing, organizing, formatting, making sure that content is easy to find. It's also looking at your search listings and seeing if you can improve their appearance to make them seem more engaging and make them seem more enticing without resorting to being deceitful. So I've never spammed a search engine, and nothing I teach in here is search engine spam, so I'm just letting you know that. What we do as search engine optimizers is we come up with a labeling system. And we use this labeling system on the website templates, and we create documentation so that it's consistent across the website. We also organize the content so not only users have easy access to the content, but technology of all kinds has easy access to the content. We want to ensure that search engines have access to the content, and we also want to ensure search engines don't have access to undesirable content. Examples of undesirable content, of course, is search engine spam, but things that cause duplicate content delivery because it wastes the search engine's resources. So things like personalization. If you have a site search engine, Google and Bing prefer that you don't put your site search results in their crawler. If you use faceted classification or faceted navigation on your site, sorting parameters, syndication, aggregation, HTTPS and HTTP. Search engines don't want that, and if your website keeps feeding search engines content that the search engine doesn't want, the search engine's not going to visit your site as often. So it might not have a direct impact on rankings, but it definitely has an indirect impact. And you'll find the better you optimize for Google, you'll find that your site search engine results are more accurate. The other thing is that SEO has always been a part of the user experience. If you need the citations for these, this is Peter Morville. He's up in Michigan by you guys. He's a really great person to work with. And Donald Norman, he validated what Peter Morville came up with back in 2003, 2004. And what people do, all people do, not just scholars, not just people that are on the web just to browse or for entertainment, is they do three specific behaviors. They browse, they search, and they ask. So browsing is just clicking a link from one web page or one web document to another, going from one web page to another or one website to another. And navigation usage is definitely higher on mobile devices. Search, some people are search dominant. People who are librarians tend to be search dominant, which is why I like working with librarians. People need to see the information sent. They see the query words, they see the query word in the search results, they see it's clickable, and they hope it leads them to the page that they have. And if they have a successful search experience, they will tend to share with their social network, and that could be online, such as the social media outlets, and also offline as well, and that includes the word of mouth, which a lot of people really want. So what do I want you to remember? SEO, it's optimizing for people who use search engines. It's part of the user experience. All people browse, search, and ask, and if you get that right and make that part of your process, you shouldn't have a problem with search engines. So next, let's take a look at some of these building blocks.
Can I interrupt just 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
Shari, one listener said that she's having a little trouble with the audio of some of your keywords, so I'm thinking that maybe when you're emphasizing, it's you're a little too close to the microphone, so it ends up distorting. So on your phone, I don't know if it's a headset phone, but if you can just move it a little bit further away, that might help.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's this?
That's good, I think, probably. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I don't know if any of you have seen this. I have seen this. I think it's cool that they did something chemistry related. Unfortunately, not everybody's good in chemistry. And so I don't think it's a good model to use. And it's also incomplete because it does not include information architecture and it does not consider site navigation systems, but it does consider a lot of other factors. And if you're very interested in learning what this is, that's great. But if you're starting out with SEO, start with the 4 building blocks. And we'll come back to these real quick. Why are these 4 fundamental building blocks? It's because all web-based crawlers index text and follow links. That's what they do. Crawl the web, get text, filter out the nonsense, and then present it to searchers. So there's a text component, which is keywords and your labeling system, and then following the links, your information architecture that's translated to a navigation system. The other thing search engines have done since the mid to late 1990s is measure popularity. Now, they promote authority, and they're trying, but mostly they measure popularity, and they accommodate known searcher goals and behaviors. And what we do for this is we want the on-the-page criteria, the keywords and the accessibility, and the off-the-page criteria to validate each other. Because as website owners, we have complete control over keywords and labels and the navigation system, but we don't have complete control over how other people link to us or what other searcher goals and behaviors are. And I find that if you do a good job with this, people will tend to imitate what you have done on your own website. So these are the 4 things that we're going to take a look at with some examples. So Science Gateway's website, amazing link development. So you guys are going to be so happy with your link development report. This is what you would want to see on a link development platform, and this is called Majestic. And just so you all know, if you want a quick and dirty link development assessment, I am still more than happy to do that for you. You can see all are part of the URL. You can see the abbreviations appearing, and it's just really well done. So the Science Gateway website has done a good job labeling their content. So kudos to you guys. And then I look at some other websites that have absolutely gorgeous designs, but why aren't people linking to the site the way we would like them to? Seeing a period as the number 1 way that people link to a website gives me pause, because that can be an indicator of search engine spam. I don't think the site's spamming the search engines, but somebody else might be doing something that is causing this result to appear. And also click here. Click here does not have a strong information sent. It's a good call to action, click here or tap here, but it doesn't tell me what I'm going to see when I land on the page. So this is something we don't want. But when we look further down the page, we see all are part of the URL, and we see the name of the gateway. So this site also has some strange listings, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm jealous because I love number 7, fast cash, what you mad at. I want to rank for fast cash, what you mad at. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden I have a page that outranks you guys, because I think it's funny. Good that HydroShare is number 1, but free shopping, okay, payday loan, fast cash, what you mad at, quick and loans arena events, these are not things that you necessarily want people to link to you as. So that is one of the things we look at. And we don't look at just the top 10. We will look at hundreds or thousands of links if it's necessary. So here are the 4 SEO principles: keywords, architecture, link development, and searcher behaviors. Get these right, and you're going to do just fine in the search engines. So the kinds of text I'm talking about are called keywords and query words. In search engine advertising, keywords and query words are 2 different things. In search engine optimization, they're synonyms, so they're the same thing. And the goal is to communicate aboutness. And as I just showed, Google and Bing and all the other major search engines look at how you describe your content, and they also look at how other people describe your content. So it's really, really important that you use the user's language. And there's a reason I exclamation pointed that. And that is if search engine optimizers don't have the epiphany, I am not the searcher, then they're forcing their mental models onto their users. And I find this is true in usability as well. You are not the user, and when I design an interface and I have to do a usability test on the interface, I have somebody who is not me conduct the usability test, but I will observe so I can see how I can improve my interface skills. So it's important to understand the user's language, and there are many ways that you can understand the user's language. And I have a list of those resources. They're free resources, and if you want a list of the paid ones, some of them are worth it. I will provide those for you as well. So you're going to take these keywords once you've done the research and present them in a content label, document label, and navigation label. Good if you can get 2 out of 3. If you can get all 3 and it doesn't seem like it's keyword stuffing, that's fine. But I try to get the content label and the document label more than anything else. So let's look at these different kinds of labels. Headings, especially the H1 formatted heading. You should only have one H1 formatting heading per page. Subheadings, H1, H2, H3. Now, a lot of times, and I see this on a lot of academic websites, is that sometimes something is enticing and sometimes something is engaging without keywords in it. So what I do in the page template is create an area for a subject tagline. So I might use an abbreviation, DNA. That one you don't necessarily have to spell out. I think most people know what DNA is. But I would do that. I would add that to the page. But be consistent. If you're going to do it to one page template, you should do it to other page templates. Captions provide aboutness for videos and slideshows and slide shares, and as well as images. And I also tend to create video headlines as well as image headlines. So here's an example for Mayo Clinic. Now, this is an earlier version of their website, and I picked this site because they did a very good job. These are the H1 heading right here and the H2 heading right here. It's done in a larger font, and for those of you who are targeting a mobile audience, there are 2 things to remember. You have to give up thin fonts, because thin fonts are extremely difficult to read on a mobile device, especially if a person is in a well-lit area. And gray has to be used very well. So I would use something called WebAIM's color contrast checker and actually conduct tests in a very well-lit area if your gateway is applicable to that. So this is something I would change about the Mayo Clinic website. This next, so here we go, H1 formatted heading. What happens is people, when they go look at a web page, they do expect the logo to be in the upper left-hand corner of the page, but think about how Westerners read. They read from left to right. My master's degree is in Asian Studies Japanese, and Japanese people, of course, read very differently than we do. So it depends on the target audience. So as long as you can get that H1 formatted heading on the page and a subject tagline and intro paragraph, if you have those 3 things there and people can tell what the page is about, you're way ahead of the game, way ahead of most people. So here's an example. I'm not saying you have to use the word summary. We have a good, strong headline. We have a summary, and we have keywords. Here, I would change these, spell out user experience and spell out user interface. But it's really well done. And one of the things we want to do is a concept called front loading. So front loading applies to content headings as well, or content labels, as well as document labels. The only exception would be your organization name. Your organization name becomes more important in the About section of your website and the News section of your website. But for your other pages, it's best to end your title tags with your organization name and not begin them with them. And people, if you need a resource, Measles and Norman Group showed that people look at the left hand of the screen a lot more than they look at the right hand side of the screen. So we see what Mayo Clinic did. This is up here, it's called the title tag. And most search engines ignore punctuation marks. And notice what they did. They put influenza, who uses the term influenza? Physicians and healthcare professionals, who uses the word flu? Caregivers, which is a very overlooked audience, and patients. And then they ended it with mayoclinic.com. And then if you look at the URL structure of this page, what we'll do is we'll show people a blank page, and then we will ask, what do you expect to see on this page? Well, because this is front-loaded and all the nonsense that doesn't make sense to users is on the end, people can tell that this is a page about the flu. And here is what it would look like on mobile. And they did a very good job in terms of layout and making tap targets far enough apart. So for those of you who need examples of good tap target size and spacing, go ahead and you take a look at Mayo Clinic. So here's a example from HydroShare. Hello, HydroShare, and thank you very much for being a volunteer. When we did the 5-second usability test on this site, one of the first things that was said was that the gray was too hard to read. And I think that had more to do with the font is very thin. So I would modify this font in your style sheet. So what we did is 5-second usability test, and or the expectancy test. What do you expect to see when you click on this set of words, my resources? What do you think the answer was? Most people, most users per user group. They wanted to see a list of resources. This is what they get. And that's something that people would expect to see and sign in, and they also expected to see the word join or sign in or sign up, but they did not expect to see my resources as a navigation label going to sign in as a content label. So, but if we click on apps, they expected to see a list of apps, and there we have apps library, insert paragraph, and very clear, clickable, and tappable looking links. So it seems like it's nitpicking sometimes, but you'd be very surprised about how usability and SEO come together. And the words that you're doing in your usability tests are actually going to end up on your web pages and make your SEO much better. Now, video is also has a URL. And what we'll do is we'll show people a URL and ask them, what do you think this is? And if they can't tell what it is based on what they see here, it's not going to do very well in image search engines, and it's also not going to help the text-based documents. We find that if you can't change this surrounding the graphic images with context really is helpful. And if you're embedding a video, having good metadata is really, really helpful. And the page title is statistics. I don't know how you say it, Cypress or Cypress. This title tag's way too short for this page. And you're assuming the users, the people who are doing the title labels are assuming that everybody knows what that abbreviation means. So it's something to take a look at. And you can look at your web page titles through your web analytics data, and you can also sign up for Google Search Console and Bing Search Console, and they will give you advice for your page titles. And if you would like me to upload Google's most recent quality search guidelines, I do have that as well. So here's this site, and now we look at navigation labels. There's global navigation labels, these two, local, local, local. And this layout, except for the logo, we moved it over here, did very well, but most people did not notice this stuff in the gray. Like I said, it's very important that you use gray judiciously. So what we do when we do keyword research, we always try to get in the field. We always try to get in other researchers' offices and watch them search. And that's where people are really funny, because you also don't notice things than if you did something only online. We look at customer surveys and focus groups, and if you attended the usability group, the usability webinar, you know that a focus group is not a usability test. And we also do competitive analysis. What are your users doing, not only in the blogs and the forums on your site, but what are they doing on other websites? So these are URLs for you to follow. And Answer the Public's homepage is terrible, but if you need to get a good knowledge base or an FAQ section, this is a fantastic, fantastic website. Okay, so you've put all your keywords in your navigation system and your document labels and all that, and now you have to put your site together with these labels. And a lot of people skip the architecture process. So you got to be careful when you're talking to web developers, because technical architecture and information architecture are two different things. And information architecture should always precede design and development, because remember, we're trying to get users' mental models and validate those mental models before we put a lot of time and effort into the development. Information architecture is making things easy to find and easy to use by organizing and labeling content. And this card sorting book by Donna Spencer is really good. Now, I can tell you, I'll give you this story, even though it's not applicable to a gateway website. I have done insurance sites, and I've done health insurance sites, and even government health insurance sites. And what do you think they initially put on their website? They tend to organize everything by topic or subject. That is not how users think. They have no freaking idea what the different types of medical insurance there are available. The only people that know that the different kinds of medical insurance that are available are the people who own the website. So when people look for insurance, they shouldn't go to a website that's architected by topic. They should go to a website that is architected primarily by target audience and supplemented with this. And we use card sort tests to get this information. And broad and shallow architectures are better than narrow and deep. Mobile makes it more challenging because it becomes a narrow and deep architecture, and I'll show you how to fix that in a few minutes. And what we're trying to do is eliminate pogo sticking, and this is something to look at in your web analytics data. And that means people are jumping back and forth between a content page and a category page, or a content page and a search engine results page. The more people pogo stick, the less successful they are at finding their content. So we look for this. So we're trying to help people move through a website by validating their mental model. Well, guess what? Navigation is the most important part of usability, because its goal is to enable efficient task completion. So I work with a lot of usability professionals to help them get a really good navigation system. And the navigation system should answer the same questions the information sent asks and answers. Where am I? Am I in the right place? Where can I go, and how can I get there? Now, site navigation is different. Most sites need global, local, supplemental, and contextual links. Universal is usually when you add something like foreign languages. And this is what they tend to look like and what users' mental models expect to see. And this is what it tends to look like on a mobile device. We want to make sure that search engines can access the content. So we go into Google Search Console and to make sure that nobody has put a robots exclusion protocol on a site. This actually happened many years ago. Somebody called me and said, "Oh, Shari, my site's not in Google, got banned in Google, and it's not in Bing either. I don't know what I'm going to do." And what happened is they let somebody go, and it was a technical person, and the technical person put the robots exclusion protocol on the entire site before he left. So that was a freebie. We got rid of that, and then it recovered very quickly. And then we also look at crawl errors. So that's where you'll see, you might not think you have 400,000 pages on your website, but your navigation system might accidentally generate that many. So we look for things, we look on the webmaster tools. Some resources in the page are blocked by robots.txt. We see if we can see the same thing on Google, and this is a really good mobile-friendly tool I like to use called Varvy. We also want to identify and fix content orphans, near orphans, or silos. An orphan is a page that doesn't have a lot of internal links from site navigation to it, and a silo is a site that is organized by a pure hierarchy. Again, that's not how people think. You want a network taxonomy, not only a purely hierarchical one. And this is a tool that I love for identifying orphans. It's called OnCrawl. And look at this, 162 pages, 113,000 of them are orphaned. What does this communicate to a search engine? It says you don't have valuable content, and we don't want that. You can also go in Google Search Console and look at internal links and also see how many pages or documents are buried, and you know you have to add more contextual links to those items if they're important to you. Contextual links are what's going to make or break SEO because aboutness in context is one of the principles we have to follow. 7 to 10, 12 words is a little long. It does provide the most information sent, but it can look unwieldy on a mobile device. So the other thing we do is, as we're doing all these qualitative and quantitative studies, we're looking for opportunities for cross-referencing, because some people don't realize that a frog's an amphibian and a turtle is a reptile, not an amphibian. Alternative paths and shortcuts. And the tool that most information architects tend to use is something called Optimal Workshop. And what we're looking for are direct success. Indirect success will tell us alternative pathways. A direct failure is usually due to clickability or tappability or a very poor label. And an indirect failure that's something where you have to catch a user or else they're gone. So what I want you to remember about this, create that labeling system and then put them in a navigation system and a URL structure that search engines can follow, lather, rinse, repeat. And just so you know, I am giving you a URL checklist, a navigation checklist, a page title checklist, and a page heading checklist for use on your own website. So link development and social signals. Well, link development is basically the quality and quantity of links to your website. And quantity is not as important as quality. What's really good about the gateway websites is that they're very high quality links. And you want people to use the user's language. This is what's referred to up here as link popularity, and the bottom three are referred to as click popularity. And when we look at the user experience honeycomb, do you have useful content that's unique, that encourages link development and social media sharing? Guides are very popular, especially the bigger the website, the more you need guides, tools, tips, and how-to. So what we like to do is go through to look at your competitors and see, or your colleagues, and see what kind of useful content is popular among the users. Don't create audio files if it's not something that your users want. So here's an example of a really good link profile. So kudos to the company who did this. You want the graph to look like this. You want most of the links to be close to this line. It's normal to have outliers. So as the site gets bigger, this will just get stronger and stronger and stronger. So this site did an excellent job with its link development. They have crawled URLs, but they have 2 million URLs, so they probably have a duplicate content issue. They've got really high quality education and government links, and most of them are text links. So kudos, yay. This site is a little bit all over the place, but their crawled URLs and indexed URLs are closer together. So the site's probably not delivering duplicate content. We probably need to do a little more link development on the education websites and reach out to government places too. Again, excellent. Most of the links to the site are text links.
Shari, could you explain on that particular slide previously what you mean by the educational governmental backlinks and such? Is that like what's being linked to them from? I just didn't quite understand what that meant.
People should link to your website using the words and phrases that you would describe on your own website. And people tend to get those words from your page headings, subject tagline, your intro paragraph, your page title. And education links, like University of Michigan, is an extremely high quality link. Then there's bobschool.edu, which is probably not a very high ranking or priority web page, or frathouseparties.org, not exactly a good high quality link. But educational links, not only from colleges and universities, but also from schools, elementary through high school, if they're applicable to your website, is a high quality link.
I see. So you're saying that this number reflects the number of educational .edu websites that are linking to your website.
Yep. And just so you know, I am more than happy to run this kind of report for attendees for their websites. I do not use I get like 60 domains a month. I don't even go near that number. So if you want me to run a free test for you, I'm more than happy to do it.
Excellent. That's great news. Thank you.
And for the volunteers, yours is coming. So that's Majestic. Citation Labs has a really great tool. You can do link prospecting, and sometimes as sites evolve, you lose a link and it becomes a broken link. And you could do a broken link checker, and if you have the content that fits the link that used to be there, it's a really easy way to get link development. It's a fantastic tool. If you are more visual and like the 3D, how things are connected, LinkDex is a very good tool. LinkDex has a really good blog. The two world's leading experts are Eric Ward. He originated link development back in 1994, and colleague Garrett French, who runs Citation Labs. So I highly, highly recommend if you're doing link development, read some of their articles first. And if you want me to help you with where to begin, I'm more than happy to do that. So I can go through this really quickly because it's pretty easy to remember. Go, know, and do. Go means I want to go directly to a website or to a specific page on a website. Know is I want to know more information about a topic, and do is the least common type of search engine query, unless you're on YouTube. YouTube usually has a lot of transactional queries. So if you can remember go, know, and do, you're good. And then you can download the PDF. This has been a ranking factor again since the 1990s. So if a person wants to go to a specific website, your page title and the file name and the domain name are important. So science gateways, if people are searching for them, the second you see these things are called site links. They're called web links on Bing. And you do it with your abbreviation if you have one, and you see site links, your site's doing extremely well for navigational queries. And again, I will take a keyword list and I will go on the search engines and see what search results are generated. So I did Philo, and Philo, part of a URL. That's very challenging because whenever you see Wikipedia, dictionaries appear, and games, which are very entertaining, you might not want to make that one of your goals, but if you can rank for philo.org, that's fine. So just pick your battles. Informational queries are the most common type of search query, and they're also the most common search query on mobile. So things like questions, people in the U.S., if they want to see a list of something, they'll type the plural form of a word. The word review or reviews means the person wants to read user-generated content, and quick facts are extremely common on mobile search. So HydroShare nailed it. What, who, why? You got the questions. Now let's spell them out. You know, what other content that people would find very useful here would help with your search engine optimization. And as a usability person, see that back button there? I would get rid of that because that led to pogo sticking behavior. So, and then if we type in what is HydroShare, look what HydroShare did. They got something called position 0. And position 0 is what shows up on mobile websites. So if your target audience is mobile, HydroShare did an extremely good job. So kudos to them. Transactional queries are the least common type of search engine query. So let's say you wanted to log in to Cubes, cubeshub.org. Is that a navigational, informational, or a transactional query? Well, you think login, that's something people want to do, but you can't log in unless you go into the site. So login plus your company name is actually a navigational query. So make sure your pages are optimized for those forms for log in and sign in. So here's what I want you to remember. I hope this helps. I hope my checklists help you. SEO is optimizing for people who use search engines. It's not optimizing for search engines only. Remember to establish aboutness in the proper context by putting your words and phrases where people expect to see them. Provide sent of information and validate sent information at every click or every tap. Remember to use your website, every page as a point of entrance, and follow these 4 building blocks. And that's when you usually get the results you want. So again, that's me, and I really do look like that. You can ask me questions personally, or you can ask me if you prefer to use social media, that's fine. I like to post links to social media to help people, and I tend to do them on Twitter. So I believe we have time for questions.
We do. That was fantastic. A whirlwind of learning. I have to say, I've been taking notes and my hand is like falling off. But thank you so much, Shari. We will see if any questions come up. Most of them along the way were, is this video going to be on the website and so forth, which it will be. We'll also be, we'll put your email up there so people can find you. And I know that you've provided a document that we can share with folks that has a lot of the links all together in checklists, it sounds like, as well.
Exactly. And people love in academia, those checklists are great to hand over because it's all the same. So your design team and your technical team and the content team all has it, so you know what to do. And then you can also troubleshoot. Like somebody might have been rushing something and they overlooked it. It happens all the time. And then someone will catch it and help fix it. The other thing I am providing is a bibliography for you because like I said, there's a lot of nonsense about SEO, and we wouldn't want any gateway website to get in trouble. And it is an academic bibliography, so it's not for the faint of heart. And I've been gathering resources for well over 20 years, so I hope you all can take advantage of them. And I have went through the bibliography and added links if a PDF or Word document or presentation is available.
Fantastic. So I'm waiting and seeing if any questions come in. If they don't, I know I have a question, which goes back to earlier. But first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. I can jump over on top of yours just so people can see what the upcoming. Yep, what the upcoming webinar next month will be, and also to remind folks to give feedback and our evaluation. Next month we'll be working in the R ecosystem, building applications and content for your gateway, presented by Derek Kearney, who used to be part of also SGCI and Hub Zero and now works for RStudio. So I'll just put that little plug in there for that. But my question for you went back to early on. You were talking about aboutness, and this is just a very specific question, which was you talked about needing about 150 characters to do something, and I totally missed what that 150 characters thing was all about.
About 55 characters to 200 characters should be what your meta tag the length of your meta tag description should be.
Okay.
Title, you'll see a range usually from 40 to 69 characters, or 40 to 70 characters, but don't overdo it. I mean, if your web page's name is privacy policy, then you call it private policy in the organization name. The more people get to content pages, the more specific the title should be in the headline.
Right. Okay. And that's what shows up then ultimately in the top of the web page when, like in a tab or whatever, for identifying.
A search engine will take from a meta tag description or actual content on the page, or a combination of both. So that's why I tell people don't ignore the meta tags. They might not be used for ranking reasons, except of course on videos, but they are used for ranking, for display purposes on a search engine results page. So if you find that your site's getting traffic, but it's not converting, you might want to update the information in your meta tags as well as the information that you see at the top of the page.
I see. Okay, thanks. That's helpful. Someone wrote in, any thoughts on schema.org?
That's technology-centered design, and there's nothing wrong with getting your search listings to look better with schema.org. So like, how do you do breadcrumb links, location-based breadcrumb links? Absolutely recommend that you use schema.org. If I'm on a recipe site, food is enticing, so yes, I'm going to use schema.org. But if your users if the listing doesn't help your users, then don't waste your time. There are sites that use schema.org and they don't rank at all, or they rank but they don't convert. So it's really all about your users. And also keep in mind that the people who are creating schema.org are people who are technical architects. They're not necessarily information architects. So really have to balance qualitative with qualitative data. So I wouldn't go into schema.org without getting all the qualitative data first.
Great, thanks. That's a neat question. No other questions have popped up since then, but I see we are a minute away from the top of the hour. And so, yeah, I want to thank you, Shari, for putting together such an amazing quantity of useful information. And I know I'll be going back and looking at those slides again to learn more and look at those resources. I appreciate all of your help, and to answer any questions that folks might have. I know you're open to getting emails as well as taking requests for people to use to take advantage of some of those resources that I guess you pay for that they wouldn't necessarily.
You don't have to pay for it. I have a subscription that's
been
unused, so I'm more than happy to provide it to the education in the Gateway community.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that there, looking at the chat going through, I imagine you'll have a number of people taking you up on that offer. So,
well, good.
Yeah.
So thank you again to the volunteers.
Oh, yeah.
It was very brave of you, and I think you will very much like the link development report that I am giving to you personally.